Hi everyone. This is going to be a brief walkthrough of Respiratory Lab, which is lab number 7. And we're going to talk about the BioPack activity, which I've done and I'm going to present here. And we're going to do a walkthrough of the other protocols that you are expected to do at home on your own. So the BioPack part, similar to the BioPack that we used for the EKG in 2 of our earlier labs, it's the same device. We're just going to hook up a spirometer, which is just a device that you breathe into, and it measures things like your breathing volumes, your breathing rate. So we're going to see what kind of readout we have when I did it. Now, typically in lab, we would do this and break up into groups, and everyone's will be recognizable as being a readout for a spirometer, but they'll all look a little bit different because, of course, we all have different breathing rates and different breathing depths. So we'll get an idea of what some of these would kind of look like had we actually been in class. So right now I'm on the first page of the worksheet that goes with this lab. There is a little bit of information prior to this, but this is where the actual work begins, and this is what I've already done and I'm going to present today. So what we're going to be doing first is using the spirometer to measure my tidal volume, my inspiratory reserve volume, my expiratory reserve volume, and my vital capacity. And then we're also going to calculate vital capacity based on tidal volume, IRV, and ERV. So just to give you an idea of what it looks like on the screen, when I first do the breathing, before I set it up to do any analysis, this is what I see on my screen. And this top part is just airflow, either moving in as it goes up or out as it goes down. And that's into or out of the machine. So actually, this is not necessarily air moving in or out of my lungs. This is moving through the mouthpiece. Down at the bottom is the volume of air that is being moved. And when it's like this, there's not really a lot that we can do with it. We have to convert it. And when we do that, we get something that looks like this. So now we are to inhale as it goes up, exhale as it goes down. And these very small, regular waves, this is my regular, normal, quiet breathing. So these are my tidal breaths. But here we see this very tall point right here. This is where I'm going to measure my IRV, my inspiratory reserve volume. And remember, inspiratory reserve volume is everything above this point in my tidal volume. So inspiratory reserve volume does not count for the tidal volume. I'm not measuring from this low point right here. I will actually be measuring from this high point right here. So it's really from here up. That will be my tidal volume. I'm sorry, my inspiratory reserve volume. Everything above tidal volume. Now over here, I can see that I've got some more tidal volume. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And then there's a very deep area right here. This is my expiratory reserve volume. And expiratory reserve volume is just the opposite of inspiratory. This is going to be what extra air can I force myself to breathe out after a normal tidal exhale. So we're measuring everything below this point here. How much more air can I breathe out? And then over here, this is going to be my vital capacity that I'm measuring. Vital capacity is all 3 of those volumes together. It is your normal tidal volume plus your inspiratory reserve volume plus your expiratory reserve volume. And we will calculate it that way, but we're also going to use this device to measure it. So I'm going to be measuring from this upper peak to this low valley. And it doesn't look like there's a very strong exhale, but you could see that, some of this graph is not necessarily level with the rest of it. So it's still measuring from this highest point right here to this lowest point right here. And that's going to measure my vital capacity. So first, tidal volume. And again, as I said, I'm measuring from the peak to the valley. I'm measuring the amount of air exhaled or the amount of air that was inhaled. And my tidal volume from peak to peak, we call it, this is my number right here in liters. Now, it's best to convert it to milliliters. So what I've done is I've rounded this, and we're going to call it 567 milliliters. 567 milliliters. And we can record that right here on our worksheet. Next, I'm going to measure my IRV, my inspiratory reserve volume. And I'm measuring the difference between the peak here and the peak here, from peak to peak. And what I've got here, I could see in liters, but again, let's convert it to milliliters. So that is 2,428 milliliters. 2,004, well, that is not 2,428. I don't know where I got that number. That is 2,417 or 2,418 milliliters. I'm not sure where I got 28, so let me change it on my sheet that I'm working along with here. 2,418 milliliters. And we will record that again on our worksheet right here for IRV. Now we're going to measure the ERV, the expiratory reserve volume. And that is going to go from this lowest point, and we're going to count everything below it. So down to this lowest point, peak to peak. And I can measure it here in liters, but that's going to be 1,291 milliliters. So far I've got 567 milliliters tidal volume, 2,418 milliliters IRV, 1,291 milliliters ERV. And if I look over here at my sheet, down here at the very bottom, add your volumes and get your vital capacity. So I'll let you guys do the math for that. But then we could also use the spirometer to measure vital capacity. And that's what I've done here, measuring peak to peak, but we're measuring the maximum. So from here to here, instead of looking at the peak to peak area, we're looking at the max right here. So my max, 4,185 milliliters. 4,185 milliliters. And if we compare that to the vital capacity that we got from adding, they're not exact, but they are pretty close. So, and that's because we measured at different points. So that's the first part. That's the protocol 1 is what we were doing there. Now, protocol 2 is going to be looking at the effects of exercise on breathing. I'm going to do another readout and get my tidal volume and my frequency. We're going to use those to calculate minute ventilation. Minute ventilation, remember, is tidal volume times breathing rate or frequency. So here is the readout pre-exercise. And pre-exercise, I did this for 30 seconds. So we want this for a minute. So we're going to do two things. First, we're going to calculate, or we're going to measure tidal volume. And measuring tidal volume, we can see that right here, 0.72457. So let's convert that to milliliters. That's 725 milliliters. A little high. May have been out of breath at that point, but this is a little bit high, but it's still my tidal volume. Now we're going to count my breaths per minute. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is for 30 seconds. So I'm going to double that to get 12 breaths per minute. And if I multiply those together, 725 milliliters times 12 breaths per minute, I get 8,700 milliliters per minute. That's my minute ventilation rate. And now I'm going to freeze the reading. I'm going to exercise vigorously for 3 minutes, get my breathing rate up. Before we look at that, on protocol 2, we can see it wants you to give a prediction. What do you think is going to happen to frequency? What do you think is going to happen to tidal volume? And what do you think is going to happen to minute ventilation? So go ahead and put down your prediction. We'll fill in the control down here, 12 breaths per minute, 725 milliliters, and 8,700 milliliters per minute. That's my control. Now let's go back and see what happened post-exercise. Here we are at post-exercise for 30 seconds. And I've measured my tidal volume. Looking up here, we can see if we convert that to milliliters, that's 1,232 milliliters. And breaths per minute, if I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, looks like and a half. So we would call that 29 breaths per minute if that was 14 and a half breaths in 30 seconds. Now measure my tidal volume here. Right there, 1,232 milliliters. Multiply that by 29 breaths per minute. What do we get? That is 35,728. So all of that information will go down here at the bottom. Exercise, 29 breaths per minute, 1,232 milliliters, and 35,728 milliliters per minute. So what happened to frequency? It went up quite a bit. What happened to tidal volume? It went up quite a bit. What happened to minute ventilation? It went up a whole lot. So all of those things went up post-exercise. Now from protocol 3 onward, I'm actually going to scroll that down because I don't want to give away too much. Protocol 3 onward, you can do all of those at home on your own. So how do you do those? Well, you've got your paper bag that was part of your lab kit. Your paper bag that was part of your lab kit is going to be used here. The other parts of your lab kit will be used in an upcoming lab. But all of this remaining activity you can do on your own. If we look at protocol 3, this is going to be holding your breath. So breathe normally for 2 minutes. Then inhale deeply and use a stopwatch to see how long can you hold your breath. Now you're going to breathe normally for 2 minutes and exhale deeply and use a stopwatch to see how long can you hold your breath. And answer some questions based on that. Holding your breath after inhaling and holding your breath after exhaling. Moving to protocol 4, this is going to be the effects of hyperventilation on breathing. So hyperventilation, this is not necessarily talking about like you get with a panic attack. Hyperventilation is just breathing at a rate faster than normal. So for protocol 4, you're going to breathe normally for 1 minute. And during that 1 minute, count your breathing rate. And that's difficult to do because once you start paying attention to your breathing rate, you're going to alter it a little bit. Try hard not to. Just breathe normally for a minute, counting your breathing rate as you do. After you've done that, you're going to intentionally hyperventilate. And to intentionally hyperventilate, you're going to breathe very deeply at a rate of about 1 deep breath every 2 seconds. A lot of times when we think about hyperventilation, we're thinking of very fast, shallow breaths. That is not what we're doing here. These are going to be very fast, very deep breaths. So almost as deep as you can every 2 seconds. And you're going to do that for 30 seconds. After you've done that, now you're going to record your breathing rate for 1 minute. Once you've done that, rest for 3 minutes. After you have rested for 3 minutes, hold your breath for as long as you can. Use a timer, use a stopwatch to see how long you can hold your breath. After that, you're going to hyperventilate again, just like you just did, for 1 minute. And hold your breath at the end of that 1 minute. Time it to see how long can you hold your breath. So really what we're looking at is the effect of hyperventilation on breathing rate and the effect of hyperventilation on how long can you hold your breath. There's going to be some questions there on page 60 for you to answer. And then we move to protocol 5. Protocol 5, we're going to be looking at the effects of rebreathing air from a paper bag. So breathe normally for 3 minutes. After those 3 minutes, record your breathing rate for a minute. Once you've done that, breathe into a paper bag for 3 minutes. Closely seal that paper bag that we gave you around your mouth and nose. And for 3 minutes, breathe into and out of that bag. Once you've done that, take the bag away from your face and measure your breathing rate for 1 minute. So you're looking to see what effect does breathing in a bag have on my breathing rate. And then step 3, this one is a little bit tricky. Step 3, hyperventilate like you did a moment ago for 1 minute. Then at the end of that 1 minute, put the paper bag up to your face. Breathe into the paper bag for 3 minutes. After those 3 minutes, take the paper bag away and measure your breathing rate for 1 minute. And answer the questions on page 62. Okay, so if you have any questions about any of those steps, either text me or email me, let me know. But you should be able to fill out protocols 3, 4, and 5 on your own. Protocols 1 and 2 are what we just did with our pictures from my respirometry. All right, that is everything for this lab. There will be a separate video for slides and a separate video for the pigs and a separate video for the kidneys, all which will be on lab exam 2. If you have any questions at all, let me know, and I'll talk to you next time.